Let's go ahead and add a few more finishing touches to this document, and then we'll go ahead and license these images and then send our document to PDF. So let's go ahead and click over here on the Creative Cloud Libraries, and you can see I do have some more images to add for sections here. But if I add a new section, I don't want it to have this logo over the top. So what we'll do is click on Pages, and I'll create a new master page here. I'll right click on this A master and I'll duplicate master spread A master. And that way my guides come along and everything else here if I wanted to keep it. But I don't want to keep the logo, so I'll go ahead and click once on here to delete that logo image. And then I'm going to go ahead and leave these copyright and page number elements down here simply because my new sections are only going to have a photo at the top, but then it'll continue on with the text. So I want to go ahead and keep those elements down there. Now the other thing I want to change is the size of my margin at the top. So what I'll do is I'll come to Layout, we'll go to Margins and Columns, and that top margin, I think I'm going to double or triple it. So let's try 300 pixels and see what that looks like. I'm going to go ahead and do maybe 500 pixels instead, and that looks about right. So I'll go ahead and click OK, and now my margin on my B master pages starts about 500 pixels down. So I'll have roughly about 2 paragraphs of text spaced down here with a large image across the top. What I'm going to do is also drag down a guide, and I'll bring it down to about maybe 400 pixels or so. And that way I've got plenty of space for a photo and then plenty of breathing room between the photo and where the paragraph starts. So now what I'll do is I'll come back to page 2, I'll double click there, and this is the beginning of this section. So what I want to do is go ahead and apply my B master to this page. So I'll click and drag from that icon from the B master page over page 2 and let go. And now you'll see my logo goes away and also my margin moved down considerably. So I'll click once on this text box with my move tool. I'll grab this handle and I'll just scale it down so that way it starts within that guide, and then I can see that I have my ruler across the page too. So let's go ahead and bring over another photo for this first section. And since this talks about fitness beginning and ending in the kitchen, we'll go ahead and grab my kitchen photo. I'll drag and drop, getting my loaded cursor, and I'm going to hover over the top left of the document till my arrow turns white. Then I'll click and drag towards the left until I fill the screen, and you can see that I come down much further than I wanted to. So I'll go ahead and just drag up with that handle with my move tool, and it's going to mask. Now if I needed to rearrange where that mask happens, I can click on this circle right here in the middle, and it's going to move my photo but keep the mask intact. Alright, so now what I want to do is go ahead and add the other section photos. So I'm going to come back to my pages and I'm going to scroll down, and one thing to keep in mind is because we lost a considerable amount of text space up here, as we move things down, we're going to have overset text at the end of our document again. So we'll have to keep that in mind as we work. I'm going to go ahead and jump to this next section here, and you see that it actually falls right in the middle of this page. So what I want to do is come to my paragraph style. I'll click on my H1, and I'm going to change the paragraph rules, specifically the keep options. So if I click on this option here, and I can choose to start the paragraph on the next page. So this paragraph is always going to start at the top of the next blank page instead of starting in the middle. I'll click OK, and now we can see that any new section starts fresh at the beginning of a new page. Now I've got my title in this text box here, so I'm going to highlight it, hit Command X to cut it, hit the delete key once, a couple times here, and that brings that first heading where it should belong. And that title, I'm just going to click and drag on my cover page and hit Command V to paste it, and I'll come back to that later. So let's go back down our document here, and you can see that we have a considerable amount of blank space down here. And then our new document starts fresh on this page. So I'll come back to my pages, and we're on page 4, and I'll apply that B master to page 4. And I'll resize this down, and I'll grab another image here. So for healthy food choices, we'll go ahead and grab one of these images and drag it over. Doing the same thing, we're going to come to the top left, click and drag all the way to the right, hit the letter V to get my move tool, and we're going to resize this until it lines up with our guides here. And there we have a brand new section heading for section 1 here. So let's just kind of quickly recap what this is looking like. It looks pretty good. We do have a lot of space here that we can fill if we're trying to keep each section starting fresh like this. Alright, so that looks good, and let's go ahead and create our third section. So what I'm going to do is where this falls on section 2, this is page 6 currently, I'll drag down my B-Master again. We'll scale this text down so it's at the top of our margins, and we'll bring over one more image here from our library. Click and drag, and there we go. I'm just going to resize this mask one more time. So now we've got pretty even, consistent branding all across the document. It's a good time to save, so I hit Command S to save this. And now we've got some overset text. So what I'll do is jump back to my pages here. We're on page 7. I'll add a new page at the bottom. Come back to page 7. Click on that little plus sign here. Come over to page 8. And then shift click on that margin to reflow the rest of our text. We have our action steps here at the end of the document. We'll add one more photo here, so I'm going to drag over that B-Master to remove the logo and to change our guides here so we have plenty of space for that image. We'll grab one more image here. And then just change that mask to fall in line with our guide. Alright, so let's just do a quick recap here. We've got all of our text in place. We have our section set up. And now we just need to create that cover image, that title here, and then purchase those photos. Let's go ahead and do that real quick, and then we can wrap this up. So what I'm going to do is triple click in here to highlight all of that text, Command Shift and the period key to just do the shortcut to make it bigger. I don't need the word title, I just want the word Food and Fitness 101. So I'll delete the word title. Command A to highlight all of that. I'm going to click up here to change my font color to paper, so it'll be white essentially. So now I've got that set to white. If I hit the letter W, I can change my view to hide all of my guides to see how this is looking. I'll hit the letter W again to bring it back. The other thing you'll notice is this looks kind of terrible as far as this image. It looks really grainy. Part of that is this is just a sample, but the other part of it is if we come up here to view, we can change our display performance to high quality display. And almost always I'll work with my high quality display turned on. This is just a way to save your computer from having to work too hard if you've got a lot of images you're working with, or if maybe your computer isn't that fast and you notice that the performance isn't that great. But I typically work with high quality display turned on, and then you'll notice the image does get cleaned up quite a bit. So I'm going to go ahead and triple click in here, and we'll change this font to that freshman font. I'll click OK. And I'm going to make it much bigger, so I'm just going to keep hitting Command Shift and the period key to get the font much bigger, and I'm going to hit Command Alt and the down arrow to change my leading here. I'll click on the move tool, and you'll see that we've got overset text because it's too big now, so I'm just going to drag this text box larger to make it all fit. Triple click in here one more time and just kind of nudge the fonts into place. And last, let's just go ahead and click once, and I'll hit the letter E now to get my free transform tool, because I want to just scale this up just enough that it lands within both sides of my guides here, so it's balanced. And I'll drag this down here. I'll hit the W key one more time just to see how this looks without any guides on. Alright, so we're ready to purchase the images and then ship this off here. So let's go ahead and start by jumping over to our Creative Cloud Library section. I'm going to find this first image here for the cover. I'll right click on it and I'll click on License Image. And it's going to ask me if I want to use one of my 50 licenses. So I'll click OK, and it's going to automatically start updating that image. Move to the top, adds a blue check mark showing me that it is licensed, and once it's done syncing, this watermark will go away. Now let's go find those other images. We've got the image of the kitchen here, so I'll find that image. We'll right click, license image, and I'll hit OK. We'll come down to the next one right here of these foods, right click, license image. I'll hit OK. And this guy, click on that once, right click, license image, and I'll hit OK. And last but not least, we've got this blue image here. I'll right click, license image, and I'll click OK up here. Now once all those licenses finally sync up here, you can see the watermarks will go away. My cover looks good now. If I scroll down, some of them are still syncing with the cloud. But once they're all done, I can go ahead and export this file. So I'm just going to do one more pass at it and just kind of look at things. And one thing you'll notice here, I do have some overset text, but I'm going to leave this here for just a second. I'm going to come up here to File, Export, and I'm going to save this in that folder on my desktop under File Sent. We'll put this in my Finals folder. And I'm going to change the format from Adobe PDF Print to Adobe PDF Interactive. And then I'll go ahead and click on Save. So here we have some different options we can work through. Right now I've just got it set to pages, which is fine. Most of these settings come up by default will be just fine, but you can look over them if you want. I tend to leave my resolution at 150 pixels per inch, even though screen resolution is technically 72. This way I find that it has better images. If somebody wants to zoom in, the images will still look clear and crisp. So I'll click OK. And here's the reason why I didn't update that text. I wanted to show you if you do have overset text, it will tell you where the errors are. So I'll click OK. And I'll click OK one more time, and I'll scroll all the way to the bottom of this document. We'll jump back to my pages here. I'll add a new page, come back to page 8, click once on that text box with overset text, click on that plus sign, come back to page 9, and then make sure I've got my A master applied to that page 9, and then shift click with that loaded cursor to load the rest of the text there. Alright, we should be in good shape, so let's go ahead and export this again. I'm just going to hit Command E this time to get my export box. I'm going to stick it in that Finals folder, making sure my format is still selected as interactive and not print, since this is for screen. I'll go ahead and hit Save. All these options are good. We'll hit OK, and it's going to generate our PDF and export each page. Once it's all said and done, because this is intended for digital use, it's going to try and take this full screen. You can hit yes or no, whatever you want, but you can see here that we've got our document all done, and it takes over full screen beautifully. And from here we can see we have all of our sections and our images without watermarks, and we're good to go. To wrap this section up, we should probably talk about how to package all of these assets once it's all done. So what I'm going to do real quick, I'll hit the escape key to get out of full screen mode here. I'll go ahead and close that window. We'll jump back into InDesign, and this time instead of going to File, Export, we're going to go all the way down to Package here. And this will scrape together all of the fonts and any linked graphics that we used for this project. I'll go ahead and hit the word Package here. And then I'll stick the final folder inside of that Finals folder. So right now it's going to save a folder called ebook folder. And in that folder it's going to stick our fonts, any linked graphics, so all those images we bought from the Creative Cloud, as well as the logo we used. It's going to update all of those links, so instead of being linked to the cloud, they'll be linked directly to a folder inside of this ebook folder. It's going to include fonts, links, and the IDML format, which will be a format you can use to open this in older versions of InDesign, as well as a PDF file that you could share here. So I'll go ahead and hit the word package down here, and it's going to go ahead and create our InDesign package. Once it's all done, I can jump over into Finder, and I can find that ebook folder. And inside of there we have our document fonts that were used. We have our IDML format, which again is a way to open this in an older version of InDesign. We have our new InDesign file, which is an editable version with updated links that refer back to these links here in this folder, where we have all those images and all of the assets we need to share the instructions on how to print this and everything should be good to go. So that's it. That is your introductory course on InDesign. I hope you learned a ton, and at the same time, keep in mind there is a ton left to learn with InDesign. It's a super powerful tool, so I highly encourage you to poke around and see what else you can do.